she doesn't even need help in, by the way. Florida, for example, she would have helped him. I mean, like, he doesn't need Florida. He doesn't need North Carolina. He doesn't need Arizona. But Warren helps him in those states. Kamala doesn't. Kamala helps him in California. But, like, again, do we really need California? I mean, you're going to already win it. You don't need to make it more solidified. It's like, buying a sandwich and making sure you have two buns by opening it and making, like, pressing it down when you obviously know your
Yeah, it's
sandwich has two
like
buns.
yeah.
And then, like, the other thing is, like, going back to the other states, all the battleground states in the Midwest, including Ohio, actually, which is probably a state that's not even going to go for Democrats this year. But Warren was helping Biden out in that state. Pragmatically, Warren was a lot better choice. Now, in the sense of relationship, like, do I agree with you more? I wouldn't say Warren is the best. Um, I wouldn't even really say Harris is the best either. At the same time, I would say Susan Rice if you really wanted to go with someone who wanted to have the best relationship with him. And the reason why I say that is because Kamala Harris nowadays, I mean, talking about the thing with what
Oh,
Kamala Harris.
yeah. But electorally, I would have to assume that Susan Rice would be the worst.
Yeah, no, she would be the worst. I'm talking about more relationship
Yeah, yeah,
wise.
yeah.
But electorally, it would be Warren. I would argue is the best. Actually, Duckworth was second, according to the political scientist. They were saying that Duckworth was helping Biden in 17 states. Three of them were the battleground states: Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. I mean, she's from Illinois, so people around there know her better than like other states. Like she would hurt Biden in California and Florida and North Carolina because not many people know her. But if she was picked as the VP, I guarantee that that would probably change drastically once people get to know her a little more. Because I mean, she's just a senator from Illinois. Like not everyone knows her entirely, but once they know her story, I definitely will say that a lot of people would definitely go over to her. But I mean, pragmatically, Warren really would have been the best choice because she had a strong base of independents already going for her. I mean, let's look at what she does in Massachusetts. I mean, when she ran for the Senate, I believe, if I'm correct, I think she ran for the Senate. What was it, 2010? I think. I forgot what year she first ran, but I remember when she first ran, there was a thing that I was reading about not too long ago that she got 43 the independents to vote for her, and then excuse me, 2012. There you go. She actually beat the incumbent Scott Brown for the seat, and she was able to win over 43% of independents, which at the time highest ever won for a Democrat in the state of Massachusetts. Usually, they usually will just split because a lot of times they'll have their own independent candidate, which actually at the time in 2018 they did have their own independent candidate. But speaking of 2018, Warren was able to win over 58% of independent voters. Like Warren would have been a lot better of a choice. Now I'm not saying Harris would hurt him because Harris, in the sense of independent voters, I think would also attract a good amount of them. Now the problem I have with Harris is I think that her record is questionable. I think that her intentions are questionable. The reason why I say that is because if she wants to be an advocate for criminal justice reform, then why the hell didn't she do that when she had the time as Attorney General or as the District Attorney for San Francisco County? I mean, it's almost like the same argument that Trump puts onto Biden. Like, you had 45 years to fix the problems. Why didn't you do it? And while that isn't necessarily the best argument to have in every certain, aspect of problems in this country, because a lot of the problems that Biden and many Democrats in this country are advocating against are the problems that Trump brought to this country himself as our president. But like the thing I have to ask not Warren, excuse me, the thing I have to ask Harris is how can we trust her when she's shown time and time again that she'll be a Republican on criminal justice reform, that she'll be a Republican on drug offenses, that she'll be a Republican when it comes to private jails, that she'll be a Republican on big banks, that she'll be a Republican on insurance companies, that she'll be a conservative Republican on pharmaceutical companies, which, by the way, she gets $220,000 of super PAC money in her 2018 Senate run, just so we put that out there. Because how can we trust someone like this when she doesn't even have the correct aspects of her character in line with actually believing her that she'll do anything, and also her previous actions of actually getting things done. Excuse me, not 2018, 2016. I meant to say for Kamala Harris. But my point I'm trying to make here is how can we trust her when she's shown time and time again that she just doesn't really care to get things done on the things when she has the opportunity to get things done.
All right, so let's get right into it. Here we have, of course, as James briefly mentioned, we have some news to refer to today about a big election, probably the biggest election that took place tonight. And of course, that is that we are ready to officially firmly call that Ilhan Omar has won her Minnesota Democratic primary in the 5th District. Of course, as long as Marjorie Taylor Greene, whatever, a QAnon believer, has won in a heavily Republican district, just as Omar has won in a heavily Democratic district. So they will both be in Congress this year. So, yeah, and of course, I just saw from one of my favorite election people to follow on Twitter, Dave Wasserman, being like, no one should be surprised their respective beliefs suit most of the primary voters just fine. Just like equating Ilhan Omar's belief set with like QAnon, which is just it's absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, to be
that is ridiculous.
Yeah, to be quite fair, there has like this. This is of course kind of the latest slap in the face to the media narrative of, oh, AOC is facing a primary challenger. It could be tough. Oh, it could be tough for Sheet Taleb. She's facing such a tough primary challenger. And then Ilhan Omar, of course, blowing at her primary challenger as well in a pretty solid, although not as big, but still pretty solid lead. Yeah, so she's facing, the thing is, she was facing a well-funded challenger Minnesota primary on Tuesday as progressive champions kind of went to back her. She was facing political neophyte Anton Melton Mew, who is challenging the progressive Democrat, in Minnesota's 5th District. He posted massive fundraising numbers in the second quarter and is neck and neck with Omar in total fundraising for the cycle. Omar reports raising $4.2 million, where Melton Mew brought in $4.1 million, but the similarities pretty much stop there. A champion of grassroots organizing Omar's campaign reports nearly 60% of her campaign contributions coming from individual and small dollar donations of $200 or less, while Melton Mew just reported under 7% of his funds from that cohort. The mediator shows that the lawyer mediator shows 91% of his run is funded by large contributions, with about $80,000 of self-financing. And really what this was people who have just throwing really the kitchen sink, though pretty much everything they can to beat someone that's just really pissed them off over the past couple of years. And Ilhan Omar, I think, is really someone that inspires me, because she's someone who's just really pisses off some of the people who I think are doing some of the most evil in the world, whether it be billionaires like Sheldon Adelson, who donates millions, of course, to Trump, and is also a big supporter of just some of the worst actions of the Netanyahu government. Elliot Abrams, another example of something that was really incredible that Ilhan Omar did. Elliot Abrams, literally behind U.S. massacres of South American troops, just probably one of the biggest warmongers, war hawks throughout U.S. foreign policy and politics. He was dressed down by Ilhan Omar. Within the first few months she got to Congress, she absolutely went head to head against Elliot Abrams, which was, and of course she immediately got to, is there something weird about Elliot Abrams? Is that because he's Jewish? Is that why you're going up against him? It's so the vitriol that's coming against her, the insane smearing that's designed to make you feel like, if you're even somewhat sympathetic to Omar's policies, it's designed to make you feel like you're insane, you don't know what you're talking about, something must be wrong with you, which is really what I think all the most effective smears try to do. But this clip here of Elliot Abrams, one of the most vicious warmongers that we have seen, and war leaders, drivers of death that we've seen in American history, really being grilled by Ilhan Omar. It's just one of the main reasons why she is so great. Here's a little clip to celebrate her primary win.
It's a major concern now.
Mr. Adams, in 1991, you pleaded guilty to 2 counts of withholding information from Congress regarding your involvement in the Iran-Contra affair.
Which is also, I just want to point out here, the first funny thing is calling Elliot Abrams Mr. Adams.
For which you were later pardoned by President George H.W. Bush. I fail to understand why members of this committee or the American people should find any testimony that you give today to be truthful.
If I can respond to that.
It wasn't a question.
On February,
that was not a question. That was I reserve the right to my time.
It is not right.
That was
Members
not a
of this
question.
Committee can attack
On February
a witness
8th,
who is not permitted to reply.
that was not a question. Thank you for your participation.
From the day that President Duarte was elected in a free election to this day, El Salvador has been a democracy. That's a fabulous achievement.
Yes or no, do you think that massacre was a fabulous achievement that happened under our watch?
That is a ridiculous question, and
yes or no?
No.
I will take that as a yes.
I am not going to respond to that kind of personal attack, which is not a question.
Yes, there's a little clip there from, this was back in February of 2019. James, I was just wondering, what is your thought about Omar? What impact do you think she's had in Congress, and how do you think she shapes the discourse that we see today?
Well, I think first off, I think that her own religion makes a big difference, because I think a lot of people look at her as someone who's crazy, partly because of the religious decision that she has made. Like, I'd argue, I mean, I know she's not a man or anything, but I think she definitely has some pretty massive balls of steel, because she has really, I mean, gotten out of many situations where people are like harassing her. I mean, you know, every time she leaves her office, there's like a reporter out there, like, you know, running next to her as she goes to the elevator, asking her ridiculous questions. Then she has the thing with the supposed, I mean, this is like, I don't even know if this actually even happened, but there was a whole thing about the affair that she supposedly had, which she denied. And like, you know, these are things that like could, you know, really break someone down. But like, she stands up pretty strong against these type of attacks. And the other thing as well, her own views, because she is a progressive, have definitely really, I'd argue, really have upset quite a lot of people. And they really don't have anything really to attack her on besides her religion. And I think that it's really interesting to see how so many people go down to so like crazy low levels, like Tucker Carlson, even Donald Trump saying that, you know, all 4 of the squad members should go back to their country. They think it's so bad. If you love a place, you want to try to fix it.
It's really violence incitement.
Yeah. Look, and the other thing is, I mean, I wonder how many death threats she has received.
Oh my
because
God, yeah.
Probably a ridiculous ton.
Mile-high pile, really.
Yeah, and then this whole thing as well with the makeup scandals that she has to deal with, and then like answering dumb questions. It's really quite a disaster, to be honest with you. And this guy who was running against her, Antone, like he himself, I thought was a good guy. I just didn't like the fact that he was really like relying upon so much from like these crazy people to donate to him. You know, like I would be fine with him if he was like at least 50% grassroots. But like, I mean, come on, 7%, that's nothing.
Yeah, of course. I personally don't know the guy. I personally don't know the guy, but like he's a
lawyer.
Just the fact that he's taking all that money, he's like a lawyer, for like former conflict mediator. Like the fact that he's taking all this money, like he knows where the money's coming from, and he's faced violations of campaign finance. Like he's been accused by the Minnesota DFL of three campaign finance violations. So like. It is quite something. So
he was just running because he got propped up with a lot of money. That's and there's also some. There's a shady deal going on there, to be honest with you, because I don't really see how a lawyer would just say, "Well, I want to run against Ilhan Omar." And this guy was like on his website, he's not advocating for like many different things. He's on his website. He's already saying Medicare for all. And he's advocating for a lot of things that she's already advocating for. It's like just saying, like, let's get rid of, like, this is going to be kind of rude to say, but like, it's almost like he's running just to get rid of Ilhan Omar because she's a woman and I'm a man, and I'm probably going to represent this better because he is really he's running on the same things as she is. It really doesn't even make sense.
Well, I think there's if I'm assuming there's probably going to be one big fat difference in the foreign policy page, but
Yeah. Wait, what in what regards does he support? I don't actually know. Really
in terms
that
of
much.
like, I don't know, but like I assume just based on like the qualification for his support, he's not going to be nearly as aggressive as Israel. Of course, the fact that she's a black woman wearing